You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at keeleycompanies.com. Well, hello, my friends. Over the past few weeks, hundreds of thousands of you, yes, I'm looking at you, my friends, have flocked into theaters around the United States and Canada to experience our film. It's called Soul on Fire. And now I and our entire organization, our entire extended family, we're so excited to share with you that you can now bring this story home. That's right. It can go home with you, the film based on our book, On Fire, and our story is now available for you to buy or rent digitally. It is a reminder that no matter what you've been through, there is reason for hope and that people are always walking beside you. And in fact, your best is yet to come. You can learn more about bringing this remarkable story to your homes. You can learn more by visiting me online right now at johnolearyinspires.com/soul on fire. Let me say it one more time because I do realize this is a new domain for some of you, so join us there. Why not check it out? Learn more at johnolearyinspires.com/soul on fire.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. Our guest today is on a mission to bring more humanity into the workplace. I think we need more of it in the workplace and beyond. That's right. Was the world's first chief heart officer at VaynerX. She partners with CEO Gary Vaynerchuk to drive their success and redefine what leadership looks like. Instead of striving for perfection, though, Claude Silver reminds us that real power lies in showing up as ourselves fully. Her debut book, it's called Be Yourself at Work, makes a bold case that authenticity and empathy aren't soft skills. No, they're the strongest tools we can utilize in the workplace and in our homes. My friends, if you have ever felt like you need to hide the best part of yourselves in order to succeed, well, let me tell you something. This conversation is for you. You will leave reminded that kindness is a strength, that authenticity is in fact freedom, and that the best way to lead others is by being fully yourself. So family, regardless of your job title, where you find yourself professionally or personally, I promise you there's going to be something in this conversation specifically for you. She opens up about the roads of self-awareness, the courage to be vulnerable, and practical ways that you and I can lead with compassion on purpose. You're going to love her. So my friends, grab your favorite Live Inspired journal, buckle up, get ready for a ride with my new friend, now yours, her name, Claude Silver. Claude, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
John, it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Well, I've been hearing glowing praise about you from mutual friends. So when they said, and now she's rolling out a book, it was time for me to finally pick up the phone and make this interview happen. So I've been looking forward to this one for quite a while. For our friends who have not yet read your book and they don't know your bio and they somehow missed the introduction I just rolled out for you, if you were to introduce yourself to them, what would you say?
My name is Claude Silver. I am an empathetic leader. I believe in people. I believe in the underdog. I believe in the late bloomer. And I am literally a champion for what is possible for each and every one of us.
Well, I am a late bloomer. I am a profound underdog. I think most of our listeners are as well. And so there's going to be some nuggets within this conversation that I and we need to pay attention to elevate our lives going forward. But rather than talk about the work you're doing today or where you're doing it, I'm incredibly impressed by both. I want to go back in time a little bit. You grew up in New York. You spent the first 10, 12 years there. Talk about growing up in New York.
Yeah. Gosh, that was in the 70s, my friend. That was in the 70s. So, yeah, I grew up in the city. And what I can tell you, I appreciated even as a young person was that there were people that looked like me and there were people that didn't look like me. So I immediately knew that there was, I didn't know the term melting pot at that point, but I knew that there were other people out there that weren't just looking like me or my family. And I do know I appreciated that. So I must have had a propensity for just for looking at all the fruits in a basket, not just apples, 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 if you will. And gosh, I got into sports really young. I'm so thankful my dad taught me how to throw a football and a baseball by the time I was 5 and 6 years old. So I was really active in sports, which was great because I was highly dyslexic, which I think they found out when I was around 8. And so that's really something that stayed with me my whole academic life. And actually, I was a terrible student in many ways, but a great athlete and a great friend. And New York, we had a country house up on the Hudson River, which was really great. We get together on the weekends and the summers there. And that was freedom. That was everything you can imagine. Running through the snow, playing tackle football with my brother, my dad, and some friends, that kind of stuff, hopping in the ponds, catching frogs. Like I really had that type of upbringing in my early years up until I was around 11. And then we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, which you can only imagine is like going to Mars from planet Earth.
Well, you mentioned a moment ago that the fruit basket was filled with many fruits. Santa Fe is a little different than that.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
didn't mention it yet, but you grew up Jewish
Yeah.
and
Jewish.
plenty of Jewish friends around you in New York, maybe a
Yeah.
few less in Santa Fe.
We were maybe one of 3 families, I think, at least. There was a very, very small synagogue that we went to, and I moved right around the time I was 12, so I was getting ready to have a bat mitzvah. Boys have bar mitzvahs. I was having a bat mitzvah. And, I really did that for my parents and my grandparents. And I'm glad I did it for them. I would probably redo things now if I went back in life. But yeah, it was really, really weird because this was 1981, 82, and there weren't many fruits in the basket, as you said, not only Jewish, but also, the population is mostly Mexican and Native American at that time. Now it's completely different. Now it's been taken over by, Texans and Californians, and it's chock full of everyone. Back then it was really, really strange because not only were there less of me, in Santa Fe, especially, you can only build an office or a home 3 stories high because they want you to be able to see the sky, which is magnificent. And all of the houses and buildings are stucco, are
Yeah.
adobe. So it's brown. So I came from a city that was populated with tall buildings and color and a country house that was green into a Rocky Mountain desert where there isn't a lot of green unless it's very, very wet. It's a desert. We're high up at 7,000 feet. So I immediately found another appreciation for what I saw outside, which were the clouds, the mesas, the vistas, the shooting stars at night, which I had not seen in New York. When you're that high up, I mean, you see shooting stars.
Yes.
It's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, moving to Santa Fe, I really was such a wonderful opportunity for me, and I'm so glad we did that. I grew up I really think my values probably changed and morphed as I grew up in Santa Fe rather than growing up in New York City where there would have been a lot of like-minded folk. I would have
Hmm.
gone to the same exact schools my friends went to and all of that stuff. And listen, I took the road less traveled. My parents took the road less traveled, and it has made all the difference.
Hmm. You mentioned in previous interviews and in your book that even from a very young age, you picked up on people's emotions.
I did.
When, because for the most part, we don't know the air we breathe. Like
Mm.
you don't know who you are when you are only that. So my first question is, when did you recognize you were doing this, that it was different than others? And secondly, what was the benefit or the challenge of picking up on other people's emotions as well as you did?
Yeah, those are two wonderful questions. I can remember about being 5 or 6 and really being able to feel people around me. And when I say feel, I think it was emotion that I was feeling. So, A, that's a great thing. B, later on in life, you have to learn how to
Mm,
incorporate boundaries into your life so that you don't get saturated with other people's heaviness, other people's weight, other people's, feelings, because I have my own. So that's when I remember it very, very clearly. And, even through, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, those things, I was very aware of what was going on around me, almost as though I had not eyes in the back of my head, but sensors in some way, shape, or form. I actually think that probably came out of being dyslexic and having to learn the world in a different way and
right.
having to use my senses rather than my cognitive brain, which was a little, jumbled and jumbled up at that time. And what I will say is, it's a wonderful benefit as someone that has a heart to help and a generous heart in that, I believe. It's a wonderful benefit for me to be able to ride shotgun with someone on their journey, whether or not they're going through something painful or something joyful, something confusing or unexpected. When I say riding shotgun, that means I'm a passenger with them.
Right.
I'm not taking it on.
Because I've heard you say that before. Tell us, tell us why that differentiation matters to you, and
Yeah,
maybe more importantly, why it should matter to us.
right. Well, let's talk about empathy for a second. So, empathy is a feeling. We know that the output of empathy, the action, is kindness and compassion. When you are an empathetic person with sensors all over, as I've just described, it's very, very easy to want to take over that person's life and do it your way. I can help, I can save them. You get this kind of mentality that I know what's better for them, that type of stuff.
Right.
That's not healthy. We can't control anyone else's behavior, only our own. That took me a while to learn. I didn't know that. And when I did learn that, and when I did start to deploy boundaries and empower myself to be able to separate myself from you, it allowed me to be a passenger rather than driving, sitting on your lap and getting all invested in your life.
Mm,
That doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help anyone. But being next to you and putting my hand on your shoulder and saying, I got you and you got this, is a much healthier place to be. I got you and you got this. That's it. That's what I'm doing. And I really believe if we can do that with no judgment and by putting our ego in the back seat, then it's okay. It's good. I can ride with you and still have Claude intact.
mm. How do we do that? I think so many of us, the term being thrown around probably too frequently these days is codependency.
Yeah.
But there's some truth in the fact that we all try to drive the car for the person behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Like we make their life ours. And that's kind of a beautiful thing, but there's some collateral damage there. So how do we become a little bit more of that passenger where we're with them and we're for them, but we're not defined by them?
Yeah, this the simplest way and the hardest way is to really recognize that you cannot change anyone, no matter if you're saying to them, get out of neutral and go into first gear. Come on, go into first gear. Come on, go into first gear. They're not going to go into first gear unless they're ready to go into first gear. And if they do go because we told them to and it backfires, well, the whole thing blows up on us and on them.
Right.
But it is so easy to think, yeah, I've been down that road before. Let me just do it. Let me do it for them. It is codependent. It really, really is when we think that we have any kind of power over
Mm,
anyone else, which we don't. And it takes a long time to learn that if you have a tendency to be codependent or you have a tendency to be overly empathetic and heart-led. And I was definitely a codependent until it did me no good, until it literally, I maxed out. I maxed out and I had to figure myself out rather
well,
than
that's the
spending
piece I wanted
time.
to ask about next
Yeah.
because we have very little control over others. And we have no control over others if we have no control over ourselves. And that was the first
Yes.
step you had to recognize for your own journey. So talk about what led to you at age 19 moving to Outward Bound.
So again, very poor student. I applied to many, many colleges. By the way, I should never have gone to college right after high school. I should have taken a gap year. Hindsight is 2020.
Claude, so many listeners, and I've received these emails in the past when we've had folks talk about their gap year, and they think it's this affluent, obnoxious way to travel Europe and get drunk and eat good food and then come home. And that's not my perception of a gap year.
No, I
And I think a
what
lot of our parents listening and grandparents are like pushing their kids from 18 to move into the next step at 19. So in your mind, what could that gap year have looked like?
Well, instead, it looked like an outward bound. But what that gap year could have looked like for me is more studying, more being prepared, more saying yes to options that came my way. So I had a plethora of things to choose from rather than what was right in my vision. And I really could have spent more time getting to know myself rather than self-sabotaging myself,
Hmm.
to be perfectly honest. And a lot of us do that in adolescence. And I think when you don't have a lot of confidence and you don't know where you're going, it's easy to get sucked into things that are not healthy for you. Power of the pack. You don't want to be left behind, right? A herd mentality. Well, everyone else is smoking pot, so I might as well smoke pot and do other things, right? So I think there's a lot of power in a gap year if there's structure to it. But by no means did I ever mean getting a backpack on and going and having all the finest beers in Eastern Europe. That wasn't my idea.
Right.
But I did finally get into college. I got into one college on the wait list, and that was Rollins College in Florida. And I was a tennis player, so that's probably what got me through the door. And I immediately knew upon going to Rollins College, I was not prepared to do academics. I didn't have the muscle strength yet of knowing what it was like to actually study and do something with what I learned. It's almost like I miss those days in school.
Mm.
I was there in high school and junior high when we learned about Roman numerals, but I wasn't there. I was somewhere else where we learned about how to succeed, how to be successful in what's in front of you, to be quite honest. And so I left after my sophomore year of college. I had some unfortunate things happen, bad decisions, bad boys, bad drugs, those types of things. And I told my parents when I got back to Santa Fe that I needed to find the longest wilderness course because I needed my butt kicked. Literally. I knew enough about the wilderness courses because in Santa Fe, you're very much in the outdoors and everyone is a hiker, mountain biker, climber, snowboarder. So I knew about Knowles and I knew about Outward Bound.
Can I ask you before you tell us about Outward Bound,
Yeah,
making that call from Florida to New Mexico and hearing
please.
your mom or your dad pick up the phone and telling them that you're coming home and you're essentially flunking out, essentially,
Yeah.
and that you failed, essentially, and that you need to figure out what life is and who you are. How did they receive that?
I'll tell you the actual truth is I got mono. And so I was very sick and I needed to go home no matter what. And instead of going to Santa Fe, I met my mom in New York because we still had a country house in New York. And my mom was not pleased at all. She knew that something not good was going down with me. She definitely knew that I was involved in things that were not healthy for me. By no means did she understand the extent. And, people think you get mono from kissing and all of that jazz. And I don't know how I got mono. I did. So I don't know if it was kissing frogs, who knows. But I can tell you right now that they were not pleased at all. And what what they did, though, even if they were displeased, and my parents are academics, my brother's an academic, is they knew when I said I needed to go do something to get out of society, quite frankly,
Yes,
they listened.
that's so good.
And I thank them for that. I really thank them for that because had they not, we could easily not be here right now.
Yes.
I was a person making bad decisions for myself. I did not I knew better. Let me be very frank. I knew better. I grew up knowing between right and wrong and how to take care of oneself, but I didn't care. And as horrific to even say and go back in time, but I just didn't. I didn't care. I didn't have self-confidence,
Mm.
you know?
Thank you.
And again, why I'm so thrilled to be here talking to you now in my 50s is that I do have self-confidence. I do know what I would tell my younger self, and I do that every day to those I'm in front of.
Good.
Yeah.
So back to Outward Bound.
All right. So I found a 93-day, longest course you could possibly do, 93-day wilderness outward bound. It's called the Wilderness Leadership Program out of Leadville, Colorado.
Yes.
And I only knew that it would be 93 days. We would resupply, meaning you could get snail mail, make phone calls, and get a shower every 18 days. And I knew we would be carrying very, very heavy backpacks. I did not know the extent of anything else. I really didn't. It was a wing and a prayer. And off I went to Leadville, and Leadville's already at about 9,500 feet up, so
Yes.
it's very high. I moved from 7,000 feet, Santa Fe, to 9,500 feet, where the air starts to get much thinner. And on that first day, here I am with my group. I'm the only young woman. There's 9 young men. We're all 18 to 20 years old. And I am the only girl. And whoa, I immediately was Mayday, Mayday. I might have made the wrong decision here, my friends. I may need to go to semester at sea or do something else. Well, I was stuck. And so here we are. We all of us got a 3-pound government block of cheddar cheese or some kind of cheese, a jar of peanut butter, very, very chunky, and a nondescript jar, and a first generation power bar, which was worse than cardboard. And we got these tablets. Now, what do you do with these little tablets, my friends? Oh, you drop them in your water bottle when you get water from the stream, because horses and cows and whatnot are also in the stream. So, oh, you got to cleanse the water before you drink it. So here we go, 85 pounds on our backs. And day one, and this was a massive, massive day, an awakening for me. We are climbing from 9,500. We're climbing 1,000 feet. We were not going to sleep in tents, by the way. We had tarps. All the guys basically like march up this mountain. And I'm down here, stepping, breathe,
Right.
step, breathe, step, wanting to go home, wanting to break my ankle, praying I would break my ankle, crying, it's snowing, it's miserable. I'm miserable. And remember, I'm out of shape too. I didn't have, I went from being a party girl to all of a sudden being in the wilderness and not not knowing from my head from you know what. And so I'm crying and I'm really hating life. And I say that because I was at that moment. And we had a female instructor that first 18 days, and she comes looking for me. She comes all the
Mm.
way down, traverses all the way down. Here I am, and I'm suffering. And she looks under the bill of my raincoat. I had a hat, like a baseball hat brim, I think and she looks right at me, very close to me. And she says, "What's going on in your head?" She said, "What is going on in your head?" And I said to her, "Well, I'm singing that Nine Inch Nails song. Head like a hole, black as your soul. I'd rather die than give you control." She goes, "You better get another song in your head." And she goes up the mountain. And that was the first time, John, that I actually put the two things together, that only Claude can change this narrative in my mind. Everything I was saying and repeating that song on, repeat in my head. Like, let me be honest, I wasn't a don't worry, be happy girl. That wasn't the type of music I liked anyway, but like I went for something real dark.
Yes.
And I will say 93 days later, I came out a very changed
Wow.
person, a much more confident person, a person that understood that EQ, emotional intelligence, was my strength.
Mm.
Being in teams and being a group leader was my strength. And that was okay. That was beautiful and not a thing to shy away from. Because what I didn't tell you is when I was a young adolescent, my parents would say to me with love, Claude, you think too much with your heart. When are you going to think with your head? Claude, you think too much with your heart. Now, I didn't know what that meant. And I took that in as something was wrong with me. So on Outward Bound is when I started to awaken to there was nothing wrong with me. It's actually wonderful to have emotional intelligence. I just was comparing myself that I didn't have, the cognitive intelligence that other people had around me. And that came much later. Like I said, I'm a late bloomer and I'm okay with that. So that is the story of Outward Bound. Every 18 days, there were no cell phones in 1991. So every 18 days, we'd make one of those calls to your parents and you'd get that hot shower and some real food. And then you'd hit the trail again. And I began to crave hitting the trail again.
Wow. So when I was in sixth grade, I joined what was called at the time like the Junior Navy
Mm.
Officers Program, which is basically a miserable boot camp if you think you might one day want to go into the Navy. It was a blast, but darn, it was hard. And on the first day, I'm a St. Louis, Missouri guy, but on the first day out there in San Diego, we marched 15 miles. And I'd never walked 1 mile, and now I'm
Yeah.
marching 15 with a bag and dress shoes on. It was a mess.
Oh.
And that night, I remember they turn off the lights, and there's bunks all around me, and all these guys who know what they want to do in their life, and then there's me. I basically went out there to see Top Gun. That's kind of what got me into this program. And I just cried myself to sleep, man. I'm in sixth grade. I'd never been away from home
Mm.
other than in the hospital. Like I
Mm.
want out so bad. And if it had been longer than 3 days, I would have walked home. But I knew it would end. So for you, with that Nine Inch Nails song in your mind, as that counselor walks back up the hill, do you remember what song you replaced it with? Or do you remember a moment when you recognized uh, this is going to be worth it?
I do. That came probably 8 days later, 7 or 8 days later, on the trail. We had one of the guys that was with us had a tremendously high fever, and we were without an instructor at this point, and we needed to evacuate this guy, and
Mm,
that meant the following: we needed to put his weight from his backpack into all of our backpacks, and we needed to be able to carry him. And so we made stretchers with logs, and with our sleeping bag, we put that over horizontally, and the guys carried him to a place that we knew our instructors would find. We didn't even know how to read a topographical map. I mean, we were looking at these things called cairns, which are little things on your trailhead which tell you you're going the right way. I mean, this is talking about the Wild West, man. This was like, we're like 11,000 feet at this point. Anyway, he ends up having kidney failure
wow.
and had to leave the trip. So I tell you what, and I'm not the first, second, or third person to ever say this. It's very easy to get outside of your own pain, suffering, and whatnot when you are there for something bigger
Yeah.
than yourself.
Yes.
And
So
that,
glad you shared that.
yep, and that was the light that started to turn on. And what you'll see in the book is after we got to base camp, after those 18 days, I had my shower. I was in a hotel room by myself, and I turn on the TV and I'm watching game 3 of the World Series. It's the San Francisco Giants playing the Oakland A's. And I watch the earthquake happen while I'm showered and had just come out of 18 days of whatever. All of a sudden, I'm watching life happen. And I'm watching the bridge collapse, and I'm watching people in the stadium fall, duck, and whatnot. And that was a big awakening. And I tell you what, I mean, I have chills talking about it. That next day, when I met up with the group and got our packs on, and we were driving to Moab, Utah, I was changed.
Mm.
That was it. Because again, I saw what was happening, and it was bigger than I could have ever imagined. And I knew those people were in pain. And here I am struggling, wanting to die out in the wilderness because boo hoo, my parents sent me on a wonderful outward bound. So it really knocked some sense into me, and that stayed with me, and it still does. You can even hear the change in my voice as I talk about it.
Good.
But when we can devote ourselves or be in service to something greater than us and my little ego, life happens. Life opens up, and we see that there's so much we can do for others.
You ran a surf company for 5 years.
I sure did.
I didn't see that on your on the forecast of your life as you were born into a New York hospital, but you eventually, in time, run this surf company. How did that experience shape your leadership style?
Whew, that was the best. By the way, when people say to me, "What would you do if you didn't have to work, Claude?" I'd be running a surf camp in Fiji or something, you know. So I taught people how to surf, all ages, all shapes, and all sizes. And when I say all sizes, I'm 5'2.5" on a good day. And when I'm pushing someone who is, 6'7" and larger than me on a surfboard, you really have to have a lot of like strength and also courage that I'm not going to fail this person. But what that whole experience did for me is give me such an appreciation of the ocean and the power of nature. That is the first thing, because those waves, when they come and you're not prepared, and many of us have gotten dragged under a wave into the undertow, it is scary.
Yeah.
And you don't know when you're going to pop up. It is scary. So it gave me an enormous appreciation of the strength of nature. Again, something bigger than me. I'm a speck. And also I could be in service, and I could be teaching people who surfing is not easy. I could be teaching people who really might struggle with certain types of physicality and whatnot. And here I am teaching them on the beach how to fake paddle and how to push up into a cobra pose and then how to get up on the sand. And then we're out in the water and I'm holding them steady and I'm letting them know, here comes a wave, start paddle, paddle, paddle. Okay, push up. Some people only got to their knees. Some people stood up. Do you know that feeling for them? I was exhilarated. They were exhilarated.
Totally.
So for me, my leadership style is very much an empathetic leader, a heart-centered leader, right? We used to say servant leadership. I don't say that anymore. Being a cheerleader and a coach is very important to me. And that's what that experience did for me. It really brought both of those things together. So on Outward Bound, I became a coach. When I was in high school, I was a coach of a tennis team, soccer team, and a cheerleader, cheering on my teammates. But teaching surfing and other things that I taught brought both of those things together at the same time. And it was such a miracle to feel and take part in someone else's success. And their attempt, God, it was beautiful.
It's a perfect lead into what you're doing today. So you work with some guy named Gary V. And half of our audience knows immediately who Gary V is. The other half have no idea who Gary V is. So tell all of us who Gary V is.
Gary V is a wonderful man named Gary Vaynerchuk. I work for Gary Vaynerchuk, not Gary V. Gary V is his social handles. He is, some people would call him like a social media guru. He is a disruptor. He is an entrepreneur. He is a very, very empathetic and kind person. And he is, I would say, a visionary, quite frankly. He's able to see around corners before you and I see them, only because he pays attention to consumer behavior. It's quite bizarre. It's quite wild. When Gary and I met, I was living in London and I had a great job. I was a strategist at Publicis London, a very large advertising agency. And he and I met on the phone. It was a 3-minute phone call. I was pacing my kitchen in London, and within 3 minutes, I was like, God, I love this guy. He just normalizes everything. He diffuses any kind of imbalance of power. That's what I'll say. And I came to New York shortly after to meet him, and here I am, bringing a PowerPoint slide of like how I could help him with his company. And we sit in this coffee shop on 70th and Lexington in the city. And I open up my laptop and he just shuts it. And he goes, let's just talk. And in that conversation, it was only 30, 45 minutes, we started talking about our beliefs in people and our family and who had had such impact on us. And for him, his mother has had a very large impact. And for me, my grandma, my Nana, was really who touched my heart in many, many ways. And it was just like I met this other side of the coin,
Mm.
really. And it's funny because if you see Gary Vee and you put Gary Vee and Claude Silver together, you would say, how in the heck does that work? Right? He's loud. He drops the F bomb all the time. I usually have to like bleep those things out when I'm showing them. And, and
As a speaker, I've followed him several times, and maybe he's followed me a couple times. And
mhm,
the audience is always wowed by his exuberance for life, his
that's right.
clarity to articulate it well, but also many times surprised that he is unable to refrain from dropping a couple F-bombs here and there.
He cannot censor himself.
He
It
can't.
is, it is wild. And that's, the mind of his genius. So anyway, we fell for one another. I've been working with him now 11 years, and I started as his first senior vice president in New York, and I was running our largest account at that time, which was Unilever. I was one of the third oldest people there in the company, I think. And I had had a lot of agency experience and a lot of lived experience. And so he put me in situations, hiring people, interviewing people, terminating people, things that I had done before, but they were never my job.
Right.
And about a year into my tenureship there, I went to him and I said, you know what, I'm done with advertising. I don't care about getting this into your hands. It's not important to me anymore. And it was true, really. I had lost the love, but I loved the team. And he said to me, and this is his magic. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I only care about people. I care about the heartbeat of this place. And he said to me, heart. One day you and I are going to write a book on heart. Anyway, he said, I need you to stay in this role for 18 more months. I remember saying to him, I'll give you 6. He doesn't remember that part, but 6 months later, I had found my backfill, as you want to do. You want to be a responsible person. And I certainly didn't want to hurt him or the company. And I resigned. And he'll tell you, if he was right here, during that 75-minute conversation, he was thinking of how he could bring me back. And so 3 months later, we sat down for breakfast, and he said, that's it. You're coming back. You're chief heart officer. And I knew exactly what that was. It was like saying, you're Claude Silver. Yeah,
Hmm.
I am. And
Tell us, because you know what it is. He knows what it is. Tell us
yeah,
what it is.
I am. This role is really the emotional barometer for the company. I am one of the champions of culture. I co-cultivate the culture day in and day out with everyone else. I should say, John, when I asked him during that breakfast, how do we know if I'm successful? He said the following: you will touch every single human being and infuse the agency with empathy. So that's the only job description I have. So I have to figure out how to do that in
Pretty
every,
good job.
yeah, you'd be great at it.
Let me know when you quit.
I will. I sure will.
I'll meet you for coffee. We'll
Okay.
get this done.
Let's do it. Let's do it. You got to move to New York, though, I think. But so every day in every conversation, every group conversation, at every strategic planning session, my job is to not only be a feeler, which I do very well, but is to make sure that I am the voice of Gary if he's not in the room, and steering us in the way I know he would want us to when it comes to people, when it comes to human beings. I'm not going to steer us when it comes to P&L, but I am definitely that person that is going to be looking out for that silent, that introverted superstar over there, and making sure that we connect her with some great people. I'm going to be the person that's seeing smoke over there and, oh
Yeah.
gosh, we better attend to that. Or that person I hear is crying in the Los Angeles office this morning because she had a terrible review with her manager. I'm going to go make sure I get one of the culture champions I've designated as culture champions to go take her out for a coffee and a walk. So really, I am that person that I would say is really holding
Yeah.
the emotions in many ways of the company, but it is in a big cauldron right out here. I don't hold it inside me. It's right here. So it's outside of me. Remember, I can't afford to get saturated with someone
Right.
else's emotions.
You take this role on in your mid 40s, and then 4 years after this, you take on, in my mind, the most important role you've ever said yes
Yes.
to.
Yes.
Talk about
Yes.
becoming a mother a little bit later in life. How
Oh my
has that
gosh.
shaped you
Ooh, it
now?
gives me the chills. Gives me the chills. My front nine was amazing. And my back nine is even more amazing because of my two daughters. The enormous amount of, first and foremost, I had no idea the heart was so big. I had no
Mm.
idea I had extra chambers in my heart. I just didn't. And the moment our first daughter came out, her name is Shalom, which means peace, I knew that every single thing from here on out I did was for her. And then when we had our second daughter, it was, well, now it's for both of them. Everything I do is for them and to leave them in a better place, in a better world. What I love about having children is the creativity and the imagination and just listening to them imaginary play, being playing with Barbies, which I never did. I never
Yes.
did. Wasn't a girly girl. My girls are girly girls. Teaching them how to throw and do a T-ball, hit with the T-ball and all kinds of stuff. Like I get to be a child again in many, many ways. And I tell you what, I now know all of Taylor Swift's songs.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've made it.
I did, right? I
Well,
pro
in all your spare time between knowing everything about Taylor Swift and leading, you have 2,000 colleagues you work with now. Is that correct?
hmm
In all your
2000.
spare time, you've also decided to write a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about the book and why now.
Well, it took me a while to write it. It took me about 6 years. So I got into it deep during COVID. And I'll tell you what, John, as an adult, is the first time in my life that I started and completed something I set out to do. And I knew it would be a challenge. I knew it would be a challenge because writing a book, writing a proposal is basically like writing in Greek, which I don't do. And also, you can see how I speak. I speak in metaphors. I speak with my hands. I bring people into the conversation. Well, that's not how you write a book. So I had a wonderful book strategist I worked with that really helped me shape the proposal and understand different sections and how books should flow. And I knew that I wanted to write about authenticity in the workplace and the need to bring humanity, more humanness into the workplace and create these workplaces that are chock full of kindness and tenderness and
Mm.
success and heart, though. And so that's really what the book's about. I originally wanted to title it something like "Showing Up in the Mess," something like that. Like we all have our messes. The book is called "Be Yourself at Work." It couldn't be more simple. And the way that I formatted it was the first part is you, how how to get you right. Meaning, what what is the crime you're giving to yourself every day, the punishment by not showing up as your true self? What are you
Mm.
what are you holding back on? Then going down this journey of self-awareness and understanding, I have little tools and tips and tricks in there. How do you find self-awareness? How do you find self-regulation? How do you become the CEO of you? The CEO of you is so important to me because if we go back to the beginning in our conversation about when I'm a passenger with someone, they're driving their own bus. I'm not driving their
Always.
bus. They're the CEO of them. I am a passenger. I'm the CEO of Claude. That's it. So then you go and we take all of that, and the next part of the book is how to be in a team. And that has a lot of outward bound learning in that as well, and a lot of EQ and how to deal with conflict and conflict resolution and all of that stuff. And then the third part of the book is you as a leader shaping the culture. And it takes you on a journey. I think the book is for anyone.
I agree.
Yeah.
And to be frank with you, I don't think if it was only for professionals that you and I would be talking specifically about it. I think it's it's for the home, it's for
Oh, yeah.
synagogue and church and
hmm
school and leaders of life, man. It's ultimately how to become a CEO of you. And that's an
That's
important role that most of us don't recognize you've got.
yes. Yes, we have that power. We have that agency to own this. This is my skin. No one else has the same skin. This is me. That is you. And I really think in the workplace, in the home, in the church, on your soccer team, when we can encourage people to be as big as they possibly can be and take up space, I believe it allows for other people to take up space and to be big, and for other people. And I say that because, A, I was a person that didn't know how to take up space and didn't know I had agency to do so. B, we have a lot of people in the younger generations right now, Gen Alpha. You have kids that are alphas, Gen
Sure
Zs,
do.
that are trying to figure out how to take up space in this world. And what they don't know yet, because they haven't lived long enough, is it's a journey. You cannot just wake up one day and be that Mark Zuckerberg. He made it look very easy, but it's not. It's not. So what I really want to share with people is you can open that book to any page, and I believe whomever you are, you will find a sentence in there that sticks out to you. You will, I call them heart prints. You will find a heart print, some kind of like mantra or slogan or saying that I've put in the book that I believe will speak to the reader, wherever they are in life, wherever.
It strikes me as paradoxical that Gary Vee is such a charger, demands seemingly performance and excellence and elevation and reinventing yourself every single day to become a far better version of yourself. And then you have this heart champion who is hand in hand with him, guiding forward the organization. And yet these two things, like that's your power organizationally, and it's what you're promoting within the book. As we get ready to wrap up this conversation, how do you hold those two things together, both excellence and compassion as one?
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's the question I get all the time, which is what's the ROI of care? What's the ROI of bringing humanity into the workplace? What's the ROI of mixing these two things together? Which the ROI is endless, right? It's happy employees. It's people that want to stay there and have longevity and loyalty to the company. It's them bringing in their friendship, their friends, right? So we can recruit from within. The 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 rub there, the way that that can fall down is if kindness isn't a part of the equation. But success and excellence and accountability with kindness as your glue in the middle, plus heart, humanity, emotional intelligence, it works as a sandwich. Without the kindness, without the humility, without that middle piece of humanity, it would not work. You would just hustle. You would be a hustle culture. And I'll tell you what, 7 years ago, I said to Gary, you have to stop using hustle. You have to stop using the word hustle. Why? Because, Gary, I have had 5 people in the last 2 weeks come to me and say, I cannot hustle like Gary Vee. I
Yes.
cannot work 18 hours a day. I now have mental health issues, whatever. And I just said, Gary, it's too much. It's too much. And he has not said the word hustle. I have not heard it in 7 years. Any
Yes.
kind of like, poster we had on the wall at work that said hustle is down. And so that's part of my job, is to listen for and see what changes we can make so that people are healthier and happier in the workplace and can do excellent work
Mm.
and achieve greatness.
What would you say to our listeners as we get ready to shift into what we call the Live Inspired Seven? So this will be the last kind of informal question is they haven't had that outward bound experience. They haven't recognized the greatness within them. They feel as if they're meandering in life. They haven't had, as you did, the children later on in life and the career elevation and the clarity around who you are and the call toward greatness. For those of us right now who we're just stuck. What's something we can do today to begin moving forward in our lives?
Get out a piece of paper and write down all of the things you believe you are good at and the evidence that shows you are good at those things. I'm a good mother. How do I know that? My kids are flourishing and so forth and so on. I'm a good listener. How do you know that? The evidence is I have a lot of great friends who always tell me that, so forth and so on. I'm a phenomenal chef. Whatever it is. I mean, but get real and find the evidence. And if you can't find it, go talk to your friend and say,
Mm,
is any of this true? So first and foremost, John, we can't do anything by ourselves. We need other people. We're wired to belong. So go to your tribe and say, I'm having a really hard time. What am I good at? God, all I think about is how I suck. That's the first thing I'm going to say. And the second thing is take out your phone and go text 5 people, 3 people randomly and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. When can we get together for a chat? Hey, you crossed my mind today. I hope you and your family are well. Do something outside of yourself.
That's good. Hey guys, ladies, friends, we're always looking for some takeaways on the podcast. Grab that piece of paper, make that list of things that you are innately good at, gifts that you have, ways that you're showing up mightily in the world. And then when you're done with that one, grab that phone and let 3 to 5 people know that they are great too, that you love them, that you're grateful for their life, and you're looking forward to seeing them soon. What cool takeaways. Before I hit record today, I said, well, what do you want to talk about? And one of the things you said is, well, I want to talk about 80s music.
Yeah.
So let's go back. You talked about being on a hike that was going to continue for 90 plus days, and you were singing Nine Inch Nails in your head.
Yeah.
What 80s song have you replaced that with? So
Oh,
what's that
gosh.
song right now that as you walk through your life, as you mother your babies forward, as you lead 2,000 people to become the best versions of themselves, as you write this book now, what's that song that, yeah, man, I've replaced Nine Inch Nails with?
Yep. Yep. Just Like Heaven by The Cure.
Tell us about. Now that's going to be in my head all day long. But for
I-
those who
I'm a
aren't
Cure
aware of
head.
it and don't know The Cure, what's that song?
Yeah, The Cure. It's just like heaven. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's about a relationship and this person makes him feel just like heaven. You know, everything that he does, everything this person does around him makes him feel so good. And all he wants to do is make this person glow. He says it. I want to make you glow. And I think that's a really suitable song for me to replace with. I really, really do. I had a couple others in my head, but that is going to be the one. Okay, I'm going to tell you one other one. I would say "Big Country" in a by Big Country. You know that song "In a Big Country"
You'll have to
by
sing
Big
it.
Country. Oh my
Now,
God!
now
I
you're now the
oh
spotlight is
God!
on. The mic is hot. Go ahead, Claude Silver.
Dreams do. I can't sing it. You guys
We'll, we'll,
can you
we'll
go.
play it
Yeah,
out a break. So for the listeners, get ready for it. We're going to be playing a little Big Country for you.
little Big Country. The song is called Big Country, and also The Cure, Just Like Heaven.
So Claude Silver, we wrap every single podcast with 7 questions. They tether all our leaders together as one. My first question to you is, what's been the most impactful book you've ever read?
Return to Love, Marianne Williamson.
What's one positive characteristic or one beautiful trait that you possessed as a little girl growing up in New York, but wish you exhibited as brilliantly today?
Definitely a sense of wonder and dreaming. I wanted to be the first female first baseman on the New York Yankees.
Not too late.
It's not too late.
If your home caught fire and all living things are out, and you have an opportunity of running in and grabbing one item, what's that one physical thing you would come running back outside with?
The last letter my Nana ever wrote me,
What's one thing within that letter that you're really glad she wrote?
my heart, with the drawing of my heart, of a heart.
If you could sit on a bench on a gorgeous New York day and have a long conversation with anyone living or deceased, who would you like to be next to?
Amy Schumer, and can we put the Dalai Lama in there?
You, you got there's room
Or
for 3.
there's two
So
sides.
Amy's to the left, the Dalai Lama to the right.
Come on,
What a fascinating conversation.
come on.
What's the best advice either of them or anyone else ever gave you?
The best advice, tactical advice, is before I send an email out that might have some teeth in it, to stop, take 30 seconds, stop, come back to the email and see if I still want to send it.
What advice would you give yourself at age 20?
You are right where you need to be, and I want you to take up some space. Share, open your mouth, share who you are with people, share your thoughts, share your curiosities with people.
Claude Silver, author of Be Yourself at Work. It has been said that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
She had a generous heart.
Claude Silver, you have a generous heart. I thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing it within your book,
Thank you.
your team, and for your children. You make a difference, and we're glad you're part of our Live Inspired podcast.
Thank you so much, John. I have the chills, honestly. Thank you so much for everything. It's been wonderful.
My friends, that is the voice and the wisdom of my friend Claude Silver. Today is your day. What a gift. Live inspired. Well, it was an absolute joy to sit alongside Claude Silver as her book, Be Yourself at Work, hits bookshelves around the United States and around the world. I especially loved her reminder to pause, to recognize that greatness within ourselves, and to literally get out a piece of paper and write down what you're good at and the evidence that it is, in fact, true. I think we cheapen the dignity, the value of our life too frequently. My friends, she also reminded us that we're not meant to do life alone and how powerful it is to do it with others by simply reaching out to a few people that you care about to let them know that they matter. If this conversation stirred something within you, and how could it not, I think you will love also my talk with Liz Frostline. Liz reminds us during that conversation about embracing our emotions at work, how it's not unprofessional. It's in fact something called human. It's normal. It's good. Together in that conversation, we chatted about how to bring your whole self to what you do, how to create real connections, and how to live and lead with more heart. It happened way back years and years ago, episode 122. That's where you can find that conversation with Liz, or just click on to the show notes with me right now at johnolearyinspires.com/podcast. I want to thank you all for joining us on this journey to realize the dignity of our lives and the lives of those around us in the marketplace of life. I want to remind you, family, that the foundation is firm. The headwind might be real, but the best is yet to come. So for this time, and until next time, my name is John O'Leary. Today is our day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire. Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son, Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today, and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.